Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan B. Butler. Please pardon my wheezing and whatnot. I am still coming back from being sick, but I want to finally get in a few more episodes of From the Star Wars Home Video Library now that A Saga on Home Video 2nd Edition is almost ready. You should be seeing that book released, hopefully, by mid to late December 2021 here. What we're looking at this time is kind of tangential, but tangential may be the name of the game for us for a little while, because unless I pick up some older releases or something from places I haven't picked them up from before, and add stuff to my collection like that, given the fact that they're not really releasing much in the way of new physical releases for Star Wars stuff right now, tangential is kind of what we're left with. Like stuff that's been in my collection, but I haven't taken the time to show on the program here because it's just been too tangential, like Thumb Wars, Hardware Wars, George Lucas in Love, stuff like that. We're probably going to start seeing some of those just to have more content. And, of course, more of those top whatever listings, like the top 5 things that we did a couple times recently. What we're looking at this time, though, this is actually about George Lucas, and it uses Star Wars as part of telling his story, as part of telling the story of the broader San Francisco Bay filmmaking community. It's an interesting documentary pointed to me by Arnar Marvin Christiansen, and I gotta say, you know, I feel kind of weird realizing, looking at this, that, you know, I really hadn't considered too much the idea of the San Francisco area filmmaking community, even though so many big names have come out of it, including George Lucas being a part of it. I always tend to think of Hollywood, and then there's Lucas, right? But Lucas, being outside of Hollywood, was part of a broader film community. We think of the people he worked with, like Steven Spielberg or Francis Ford Coppola, but there is a community around that. It's not just them in a vacuum. And maybe I should be thinking more about Hollywood, quote-unquote, right, big movie studios outside of Hollywood/Los Angeles, because, I mean, I'm in the Atlanta area. There's a movie studio between where I live and where I take my son for speech and occupational therapy every week. There is a movie studio where the mall used to be that I used to go to after first moving down here. It's been kind of torn down, rebuilt into a movie studio there. I think it's Tyler Perry's movie studio, actually. And, I mean, just in weird little ways you see it around here. You'll see streets and stuff in our town closed off from time to time for movie shoots and stuff like that. Whatever that wrestling thing is with the guy that played Arrow on Green Arrow, or I guess Green Arrow on Arrow, Stephen Amell, that filmed down here for a bit, kind of close to where we used to live in this little area. If you leave the Japanese hibachi place that we love to go to and head towards Peachtree City, Georgia, and you need to turn off to go a little bit more towards where we live, then you are turning off on the same exit used in WandaVision to show them pulling off to go to Westview. It's a little weird now, but certainly it should mean, duh. Anybody alive in there? Duh. Big studios outside of, or big movies being filmed, I should say, I guess, outside of Hollywood, of course it's a thing. And of course, thinking of George Lucas, that should remind us that the San Francisco Bay Area is one of those major locations. So what are we looking at is an interesting documentary here on DVD called Fog City Mavericks, the filmmakers of San Francisco. It says up here at the top, featuring Academy Award-winning filmmakers George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, John Lasseter, Sofia Coppola, and Saul Zaentz. If I'm saying that correctly. I did watch it, but I forget how to pronounce it. Your spine there. Up here at the top, just like the bridge there, Golden Gate Bridge. Fog City Mavericks, DVD, Anchor Bay, and then product number there. I was trying to read the Anchor Bay, but that text is way too small. It's Anchor Bay. I think it's Anchor Bay Entertainment, a Stars company, but boy, it's straining my eyesight there. To kind of give you a rundown here on the back of what this is all about, we'll take a look at it. It says, wonderful! It paints a great portrait of the city as an incubator for artistic individuality, according to TV Guide. A little bit of cast crew type stuff and stats and whatnot down here at the bottom. And of course there's shots here from Raiders of the Lost Ark, A New Hope, let's see, Apocalypse Now, Amadeus, and Finding Nemo. There we go. I was able to identify them. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to. What it says here, though, is, "For over a century, they have touched our hearts, opened our eyes, and expanded the possibilities of what cinema could be, with such classics as The Godfather, American Graffiti, Star Wars, Toy Story, Apocalypse Now, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Finding Nemo, and beyond. Now explore the history of San Francisco's fiercely independent filmmaking community in this Stars Originals documentary featuring rare footage and revealing interviews with George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg, Saul Zaentz, again, if I'm saying that correctly, I'm pretty sure I'm not Zaentz, I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, John Lasseter, Philip Kaufman, Chris Columbus, Sofia Coppola, Steve Jobs, and more Bay Area visionaries who have changed the world of movies forever." And I'm kind of stunted there trying to breathe. The disc, just the logo with the product number and a tiny bit of legalese at the bottom. This is copyright 2007. Okay, 2007. So it's pretty interesting. It's got an interesting approach in how it addresses the topic. Because it's not just, here's this filmmaker, this filmmaker, this filmmaker, this filmmaker. But it's also not just all chronological, hitting everybody as it goes through. Instead, there's a handful, like Francis Ford Coppola and George Lucas, who are like the chronological through lines. A little bit of their career here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, showing sort of the evolution of that filmmaker and that community over time. And interspersed within that, almost like featurette style, you have features on single filmmakers who will only mostly be addressed in that little segment. So it's kind of like Lucas, someone else, Lucas, someone else, Lucas, someone else, with also Francis Ford Coppola and others kind of chopping things up there. And it's really kind of interesting, because it even goes back to like the earliest, like what became the technology to allow movies to exist at all, and its development by someone within this particular region. It goes all the way up to like modern times. I found it pretty fascinating. It's one of those things I kind of wish was on Blu-ray, but 2007, yeah, I figure. But kind of a fun watch. Interesting that this was made, of course, before Lucas retired from Lucasfilm, so it doesn't kind of have his retrospective look from sort of being outside the community to an extent as he is now. He was still with Lucasfilm at the time, but still a fun little watch here. If you're interested in not so much just Star Wars, but seeing Star Wars in the context of Lucas, Lucas in the context of the community around him during the making of the films, then yeah, this is definitely a really interesting one to pick up. And it's just a single documentary to watch. It's not like it's a series or anything like that. So, with that, we will wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers, and I guess the San Francisco filmmakers as well.